Welcome to the Newbcast Podcast for the 9th of September 2018. My name is Ms. Michelle Jean, and I'm joined today by the usual crew who... Wait, did we all plan to wear sunglasses?
Nope.
We just...
Your lights are bright.
What? Guys, this was not planned.
Welcome to the
This was not
Matrix
planned.
cast.
featuring both red pills and blue pills.
We've had plenty of both.
That we have.
Although, fuck this noise because these are polarized and so are the majority of computer screens.
Yeah, mine is too. So
Oh, I'm
really
so
good.
happy I don't have polarized sunglasses. I cheaped out and it worked out to my advantage.
Oh, it's so bright.
Yeah,
It's okay.
right.
I didn't want Sony here anyways.
Oh, guys, welcome to the
Holy
Newbcast
cow.
Not coming through in the
Podcast.
shop.
What do you mean I'm not? Again, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I know these guys can hear me. Everyone that's watching, they can hear me. It doesn't matter. Okay. Regardless, welcome to the Newbcast Podcast, gaming podcast where we're not professionals. We don't pretend to be. Or do
Can
we?
you even hear us?
All
This
right.
is not professional. Can you... Hello? Is this thing on?
Oh, gosh.
Is it semi-professional?
No.
Is this like
No.
the minor leagues?
Kind of while we talk about gaming stuff and whatnot. Crime. That's how I feel sometimes. Like, I don't know how many, we're 7 episodes into this rerun of the show, and it seems like of the 7, 6 of them we've had technical problems as we start off.
I mean, the good news is every great podcast has tons of technical issues. Everyone that I know of.
Well,
So
a live
maybe
one,
we are
so-
just a great one.
Live ones, right?
I mean, if you just do a podcast for YouTube, it doesn't really matter. You're just recording it. No one will ever see you mess up.
Unless you deliberately do that. Oh.
Or, yeah, I guess.
Anyway,
Anyways, yes. Let's go ahead and just get into it. Coming up in the show, we will be talking about what we've been playing. We'll talk about any type of gaming news we've stumbled across. It's been kind of a quiet couple weeks, sort of. There's some stuff that's happened, but nothing that's like, oh my god, that. And then other gaming topics. So that said,
I mean, in fairness, we get inundated with so much news that is bombastic and crazy and zany that gaming news feels like a nice relief.
the standard has changed. I won't dispute that for a second. Not at all. That said, I suppose what we can do is just start welcoming people to the show. Back for a second. We'll just call it a week. Why not? You know, it's 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, for the show, Theoracraft, welcome back.
thank you.
What have you been playing?
Well, there is, of course, the usual Guild Wars 2, because MMOs eat your life if you ever end up getting into one of them. I have also looped back for a little bit on an old game that I hadn't touched in a while called Elite Dangerous.
Ooh.
Do tell.
Kind of No Man's Sky minus the No Man's Sky, right?
Essentially, Elite Dangerous is... a friend of mine described it as your DMV exam for flying spaceships. And the course is actually a one-to-one recreation of the Milky Way.
I did not realize that. That's really cool.
It's fucking huge.
Wouldn't you know it?
So how many times have you crashed? How many points got docked?
Actually, I have not crashed at all.
This is a
But
good
when-
desktop.
I'm also one of those people that plays through all of the tutorials before I actually start the game, though.
Oh, that's so fun. You have to smash yourself into stuff. That's the way it works. You go into the spaceport, you speed in the spaceport, the cops come in and shoot you down, and you get to respawn. It's great.
You just get yelled at if you speed.
Yeah, I was about to say,
really?
I've never actually gotten shot at for speeding. I've just gotten, like, yelled at over the comms and then had fines to pay.
Oh,
I've never gotten a speeding ticket.
I never got a ticket either, but
I do have a friend, though, that has dramatically crashed very, very expensive ships right in the door of the docks into other ships.
As somebody with 1,000 hours in Elite Dangerous, I can say that it can be scary going through the envelope.
Yeah, I've played a little bit of that too, and I'm not sure how many times I've banged my ship around. Oops.
Shields are great, but you know, sometimes you just want to get that extra, 15 tons in your cargo ship, and you come into the mail slot a little too fast or at a little bit of an angle, or you think that you've made it all the way and you tilt a little too much, and then you hit the back of your ship. Good stuff.
To be fair, I'm only flying a Cobra at the moment, so it is a fairly small ship. But I do plan at some point to end up getting some of the larger gunboats.
Maybe like one of those mega ship. Oh, right. We'll talk about that later, though.
Yeah, there have been some interesting goings on in Elite Dangerous, but that is going to be for later, which I know that Hippo also has some opinions on.
Guys, I have opinions.
Uh-oh.
Multiple?
Uh-oh.
Multiple.
Speaking of Hipponymous, what have you been playing lately?
2 Point Hospital. It's like my #1 game for the past couple of weeks, or since it came out. That and God, what else did we play? I have to look. Hang on. Yeah, mainly 2 Point Hospital. We played Universe Sim when it came out. That was really good. Sort of. It was really good, but it had a lot of bugs, and it still has a lot of bugs. But it's good. But it's buggy.
Is it buggy?
Good. It's good.
Is it as buggy as Star Citizen?
I would say that it has more bugs than Star Citizen. Game-breaking bugs, at least. It's definitely an early access release. We put about 7 hours into it, and I really enjoyed the time, but there were definitely points at which I was like, is this a bug? Is this a feature? Is it both? What's going on? Is there something like that I'm personally doing wrong, and like I just don't know that I'm doing it wrong? And then we had chat was like, no, that's a bug. So, but it's a good game. It will be a very good game.
I recall some other games I've been playing too that aren't as new, but
Yeah, Michelle, what have you been doing?
Well, of course, Guild Wars 2. Actually, on Friday, I joined the Unabridged Gamer and another. It was a YouTuber talking about Warhammer 40k Space Marine. That was an interesting revisit.
If I remember correctly, that was being hosted by Hidden Object Guru, wasn't it?
Yes, actually, that's exactly who was hosting it. And it was, the game wasn't horrible. There were aspects of the game I was just not, I was not too sold on. The learning curve was relatively steep. Once you start learning how to do certain things in the game, I felt it was pretty enjoyable. I believe that once you start figuring it out and actually working as a group, like it became enjoyable. But until you get to that point, like there's always a chance that there was a potential to lose people if they weren't truly invested in Warhammer 40k.
Mm-hmm. The real trick is, I actually, as someone else who's played the game also, is the fact that they purposely make the controls very weighty to reflect the fact that you are essentially running around in a giant bipedal tank, more or less. So when you do things like sprint, you can't just stop or turn on a dime. You actually end up having to slow down and skid to a halt. You'll be carried forward so many more steps because of your weight. You can't turn very quickly. A lot of the weapons, they'll hit very hard, but you can't carry as much ammo, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, there was that. I think the other thing is for this video we did like a horde type mode, and I don't know how many orcs I shot in the face and they didn't die. And it's like, if you get shot in the face, this is where you fall down. So
Yeah,
that
orcs.
I mean, if I was shot in the face, I probably would also fall down.
you would think that would do the trick, but no.
Meth.
No, not this time. So a little bit of that. I revisited City Skylines again. Looking at you.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking at Hippo as I mentioned that. Because I know he's got opinions about the game.
I may or may not be responsible for Michelle's addiction to that game.
Oh, please, it's no addiction.
Personally, I just need to know if there's an addiction to making rivers and lakes and other such silly waterways a fountain of poo. And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. It's definitely happened.
If you look at any YouTube, if you look at any streamers, they are probably gonna make a poo river or a poo lake or a poo cano in my case. Because I have the maturity of a 15-year-old.
Look, yeah.
And you can do it.
We ended up doing a poo lake that ended up being a poo mountain within a poo lake within poo mountain, and then it needed a what do they call? It was a dam of some variety, and
was it a poo dam?
No, I didn't call it poo dam. I called it something else. I know that the area that we, what I'm trying to think of, the, not territory, like the, why can I not think of the word, where you draw out different neighborhoods?
Zoning?
Yeah,
the zone. I know that the zone was called Fecal Park.
I see that this is why we're friends, Michelle. This is why we're friends.
What it ended up doing is when this lake started overflowing, we actually put in a dam and then had a water pump system that flowed back into the main poo lake, so that it became a cycle, and it actually worked.
I suppose this is better than the poo volcano that Hippo made and then ended up setting up restaurants around the edge of. It's like, do you want a Norwalk outbreak? Because that's how you get a Norwalk outbreak.
I actually didn't know you were there for that. So that's actually even more funny that you know about that.
I'm always there, you just don't know it.
Well, I mean, if Michelle is there, you're probably there.
Fair rule.
I mean, I think your resort area was really nice at the top of your poo dam.
I love that all
Look,
of
we
us
had
know
jet
this.
skis and everything.
Jet skis and pink eye.
My
Great,
resort.
delightful combination.
I borrowed that same idea. My resort didn't see as many people visiting though. So no, but we started a brand new city. It ended up at about. Oh, bollocks! These guys can still hear me.
We heard you there. We definitely heard you there.
Yeah.
The stream still hears me. No, I was beginning to say that even though my resort didn't work as well as Hippo's did, we did build that city. We started brand new at the beginning of the stream, and after we were done, we were up to about, what did I say, 37,000 people?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, which in a single night, isn't that horrible?
No, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
You know,
So
I'm teaching you the ways of poo.
it was all the freeway systems and trying to relieve traffic and making sure that wasn't a congested nightmare.
I mean, that's really the only thing that you're doing with City Skylines is you're just managing traffic. Everything else is just, secondary or tertiary.
That's fair. So yeah, I played that then, and played some Human Fall Flat, and had a very fun time throwing Hippo over the side of the levels.
You kept grabbing areas that should not be grabbed. I have clips of you grabbing certain places that should not be hung off of.
It worked.
And yet you did.
It worked.
You know how Michelle will make any game PvP.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, certain places of the body should not be grabbed onto and then just hung off of.
Look, I was hanging out for dear life. If I was going to go over the edge, you were coming with me. If that's what I could grab onto, I mean, that's just what I had to grab onto.
Oh, you did.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Right? Oh my gosh. But yeah, as we've been talking about the various things, we got Dizza that's hiding off in that corner, not talking at all about anything he's played. Diz, what have you been playing?
I have not been able to stream the last couple of weeks. A week was spent with my sister, which is fantastic. I haven't seen her in a few months, and that was absolutely enjoyable. We did play a little bit of stuff just privately. There are a couple of games over the last couple of weeks that have been fantastic. My mobile game of choice right now, and I found a mobile game that I'm actually enjoying. It's called Hole.io.
Okay.
And basically, it's kind of like Katamari, except made bite-sized so that you can enjoy it on a phone in 2 minutes. So you have a 2-minute competitive race with other people. You try to create the largest hole by eating things. And needless to say, I have definitely worked through and optimized my routes on at least one of the maps and proceed to eat all of the buildings and all of the other holes. I have ensured that I will have the biggest hole at least 85% of the time. And I played something else at some point.
Can somebody please clip that so that I can make that a sound effect?
I've been playing a lot of social games, and Quiplash in particular has been my favorite as of late.
Oh,
I have to admit, I need to get it for a stream because it's just so much fun. And everybody comes in with different answers depending on who you play with. So I played Quiplash one time with mostly my family. And then I played just yesterday with a bunch of gamers and totally different group of people. There was a lot more butt jokes in the second group than my family for some reason.
Of course.
But I had some surprises. I never expected my aunt to be able to say some of the things that she said on there. And that's what made it the best, is when you find those key moments where somebody you'd never expect to say something inappropriate just comes in with a real zinger.
We kind of had that moment when we played Cards Against Humanity with my godparents.
Ooh.
Yeah. We've just found out how horrible they were at times. It's like, wow, I would not have expected that from either of them. Of course, Enemy Laces, who hangs out in our channel Oh, for fuck's sakes. This is why I don't like push to talk on my computer. No, so despite the whole being very surprised by that, I think that Enemy Laces, who hangs out in this channel quite a bit as a viewer, she played along with us, and she had a stack of cards that she had won. Quite easily the most horrible person we played with that night.
That's a pretty good title to have.
Yeah, right?
I think because of the fact that she was just willing to be outright horrible because she didn't know who she was playing against and was like, all right, I'm just going to go as bad as I can. Meanwhile, I was all like, oh, my godmother is so wholesome. I should try and play to the judge with something cute. No.
Speaking,
that's what happens.
Yeah, right. Speaking of social games, I suppose we can just dive right in with the first topic, of social games and like social exploration and what happens when a developer misleads you.
Oh, okay. I mean, all right. So we're talking about Elite, right?
Yep.
Okay, Crafty.
All
This is yours. You've done a lot of. This was your topic. You've done the research. I just have opinions. Please go.
Okay, so we're probably going to have to set up the information a little bit for people, right?
Yeah.
So, you've already heard me say before that, Elite Dangerous essentially is a game that has a one-to-one recreation of the Milky Way, and you get set loose in it with a spaceship. Most of the game ends up being spent staring at, the tunnel of swirling space as you're going, jumping between various locations for trying to make money, trying to get a better ship, because when you start, you are nobody, and your ship is utter shit. But there are definitely different ways to play the game. A lot of people are either focused more on combat, commerce, or exploration. Given some of the I definitely think some of the areas are procedurally generated. It can get a little bit boring on the exploration front, but there are some people who really, really appreciate that aspect of it. I have one friend who actually is one of the few players to make it to the black hole in the center of the galaxy.
I've been there.
And, some of those fun times where, you end up getting into, you jump into a binary star system and you end up getting the most gorgeous view, etc. So, little bit of backstory to set up what happened with the game lately that has gotten it a lot of attention and caused a lot of salt to flow.
Wait. You mean lately, as in like what? It happened today, right?
No,
Or,
it
like,
happened
yesterday.
It happened very, very recently. I think it was only a
Thursday.
few days ago.
Thursday, yeah.
Thursday.
Okay, so there was a sector of space called the Cone Sector that no one could access because ringed around it was an area of permit locked space. It's essentially the equivalent of an invisible wall. You cannot pass through it. You cannot jump into the space. And the amount of space was wide enough that no one could simply lock onto a star on the other side of it and bypass it. No one had engines that were powerful enough to do that. Also of note, when you are playing the game, you're frequently jumping between space stations or other various ports on planet surfaces to do things like fix up your ship and refuel, etc. Something that was introduced later in the game were called megaships. They essentially could operate a lot the same way as a space station. They could be a port of call for people, but they were mobile. And they were all essentially controlled NPC-wise by the game itself. But they decided, as part of a massive community initiative to get people involved, that if goals were met by the community, they would put a megaship under the control of a player group. Now, they met the goal, and the megaship, the Gnosis, was put under the control of Canon Interstellar Research Group. And this was actually, they're essentially the equivalent in this game of a guild. And this group was actually dedicated to exploration. So one of the things that they wanted to do was to actually, put the megaship into, harder to reach locations to kind of be like a port of call for explorers that were going far outside the developed space. Because you can actually get to the point where you're not going to be able to find space stations and stuff anymore, and you're going to have to be scooping your fuel off of stars and things like that. They wanted to put the megaship out into places to help make things easier for explorers. because that's often a group of the game's players that kind of felt like they were getting shit on and forgotten about, because there's usually always been so much emphasis on combat, and because of the fact that it is so much a spaceflight simulator. So, how do all of these elements combine? Megaship obviously has way more powerful engines than any of the small vessels that are being controlled by individual players. Enough so that the Cannon Interstellar realized it would be able to make a jump large enough that it would clear the permit-locked space and could potentially reach the cone sector. Now, because this happened so recently, I haven't had a chance to research how all of this works. But as far as I'm aware, if anyone knows otherwise, please correct me. The megaship isn't exactly something that like players can log into or be aboard or steer necessarily. Essentially, Cannon Interstellar has the ability to submit a flight plan to the developer, Frontier, as far as I know. And essentially, Frontier approves it, then they end up moving the ship to the location that they dictate on schedule.
Again, so how it works is I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it works, but then they have to be aboard the ship, like you can dock, and then when it jumps, then you're on it. But until then, it's just
a station.
It's essentially a station that they move, and that's it.
Yep. So because I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone at Cannon Interstellar, that was one of the details I wanted to make sure worked. Because as far as I know, what happened is when they realized this about the cone sector, and it might be a way for them to access it, they submitted a flight plan to Frontier, essentially saying, this is where we want to send this ship at this time. To which Frontier's reply was more or less, okay.
What?
So there's like random... sorry, go ahead.
So players were essentially freaking out. From their point of view, this was essentially a puzzle that they were trying to crack. They thought that they had finally figured out the loophole, the solution to the puzzle that would allow them to explore this new unseen space. So
surprise.
It turned into this giant event where all of these players were piling in to dock inside the Gnosis to be taxied into the cone sector so that they could be first on the ground to explore. So,
what happens next?
Well, not everyone realized it, but it was pretty obvious that Frontier had a plan from the outset, which they accidentally spoiled by releasing a news article in-game via the game essentially has a Gallinet where it puts out news to all of the players in character, in universe, in game, and accidentally released the article before the actual trip happened, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But for what it's worth, not everyone noticed it. But what ended up happening is all the players piled in. If I remember correctly, the number that I was given by a player who I know who was aboard was that there was approximately 11,000 people docked on the Gnosis. They took off, and the Gnosis was hyperdicted. What that means is it was yanked violently out of hyperspace and attacked by aliens.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind that all these people who were going, they geared their ship for discovery and long distance jumping, because when you go, I don't know how far this sector that they're talking about is away from the bubble. That's what they call like the habitable area, or not the habitable area, the inhabited area of space around Seoul and around that area.
It was a substantial distance away.
Okay, they put out one station about a year ago called Colonia. It was 22,000 light years away from the habitable zone, or where everybody is, and it takes at least 8 hours to travel there, like as a real time, 8 hours just to get there. 22,000 light years one way. You're not seeing anybody else out there. You're not finding any other stations. You're not finding anything but stars and planets and weird stuff like black holes and neutron stars. You're finding absolutely nothing. So I don't know how far that they were planning on going, but you're not, when you go out that far, you're not going to be, fitted for combat, because nothing out there is freaking, not even aliens out there.
You have to very much end up gearing your ship for self-sufficiency. Things like, a fuel scoop so that you can skim needed fuel off of stars because there's nowhere that you can stop to refuel. That hard point that you use to pick things up, it gets spent on that. People are spending, there's only so much your ship can handle power-wise and mounting-wise. So it wasn't, most of these people were not geared for combat. They were set up to be going out for a long ways on their own, spreading out. And suddenly, the ship was hyperdicted, and everyone had like that 2 minutes of, oh my god, what the fuck is going on? Why did we stop? Why is everything on fire around me? Now, for what it's worth, from the point of view of the friend of mine that was actually aboard the ship, it was a pretty spectacularly well done event, as far as the, suddenly all of these people who were under-equipped having to band together and protect this vital resource, weaving in and out of the superstructure of the gigantic fucking ship, taking out some of the most difficult enemies in the game, because the aliens, they're equipped with some pretty wicked shit. As a friend of mine actually said, this was the closest he had ever experienced in game to the exciting footage that they tend to have in the trailers. Now, here's where it ends up getting messy. The Gnosis was destroyed, essentially. I've had several sources tell me that it can be repaired, but the fact is, they were hyperdicted before they reached the cone sector. They never reached it.
It was 11 jumps out. Only 11. That's like, I don't know how far it can jump, but it's not that far. I think they said something like less than 10,000 light years or something like that.
But they didn't get there. And people are definitely working together now to try and get the Gnosis repaired. But when essentially hoping that after this was over, that they could then go back to exploring, only to essentially be told, no, you were never going to be able to reach it because the cone sector's not done because it's coming in a future expansion.
So, as somebody who is a ranger, which is like, I think the second to last rank in exploration before elite, I can honestly tell you that discovering stuff is really interesting for a little while. Traveling is tedious. These people who go on the other side of the galaxy make the days and days and days just to get to one side of the galaxy, or the other side. And along the way, they're exploring. They're getting their names on new systems, new stars. They're getting their name on stuff. But it's not interesting after a while. After like 12 hours of the same noise, the same jump, the same stuff that you see over and over again, it kind of gets a little tedious and boring, because all you're doing is holding down a button to scan everything and then looking at something, scanning it, seeing if there's anything like if there's a water world or an earth-like planet in that system. If there's not, you just move on because it's not worth scanning. It's not worth the time.
Maybe end up getting some cool screenshots of binary systems, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I've jumped into like having 4 stars right in front of me and roasting me a bit, but it's I would feel I really do believe that the explorers in this game feel marginalized. They feel like they are.
But dedicated is one thing I'd probably say too. Apparently on their website, they even went so far as to say, although all of us are hugely disappointed not to make it to the cone sector, the tiny amount of data we were able to collect does show this area of great interest. We must continue to stake out this apparent wall of Thargoids, the Thargoids being the large tentacle aliens that they were hyperdicted by. Tentacle aliens, guys. Thick enough to hyperdict a megaship. Let's make sure we can do what we can. There's science to be had out there. So, a group of them, and this is from the Canon group that helped organize it. They're dedicated to the cause, even if it's, not feasible in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about like any of the RP and stuff like that. I'm just saying, like, as a somebody who was originally interested in only exploration, I feel like the people who do it, they like. If you go out on different systems and all this stuff, you go 22,000 light years and then you come back and you're exploring, you're literally discovering neutron stars. Okay, you're the first person to put your name on that system, and you come back, you can have a lot of money, but it's not like as much as you would make in trading or combat.
Mm-hmm.
So I get you have to really to make money and stuff, like you really have to love discovering stuff. You have to love exploration, and if you don't, look,
it's not gonna happen.
I'm not gonna lie to you. When I went to Colonia last year, I didn't know what was out there. I got there after a very, very, very long flight. I got there, I docked, no other players were around, nothing was there except for the station and some AI. And I was kind of slightly disheartened because even that station had the same interior, the same exterior as other stations all the way back. So they didn't even do any, like, I think they've changed it now. But at the time, it was the same thing as you would find 22,000 light years, 8+ hours from where you start.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally the same thing that you see over and over again. They didn't put any detail into this. And I like I said, I'm pretty sure they have now. But like it just felt so, I mean, it's nice to have that little station to dock at, because if you die and you're exploring, you die, you go back to where the last place you were docked at. So if you hit 18,000 light years and you jump into a star because the nav is stupid and you roast your ship, you go 18,000 light years back from where you were. So it can be very frustrating. Like, I really do feel that the exploration community feels they feel slighted by Frontier, because the only real way to make money and to reliably and quickly is combat or trade. That's it. I mean, they have other stuff to do, but it's not worth it. It's not worth it in the long run. Like, if you're trying to maximize your money, it's fine. There's other things that you can do that if you actually love, you'll still make money. You just won't make the same amount of money, you know? So that's why you have a lot of people doing trading and combat.
I mean, on one hand, one of the things that I really loved about this was this idea of what a way to demonstrate why the cone sector was barricaded off, what is there, forcing everyone to work together. But personally, I feel like this event should have actually been saved for the expansion launch. Like they should have.
I'm torn.
I feel like they should have considered just essentially telling them, yeah, might want to save submission of that flight plan for this date when we're planning on doing this. Because
Right.
the idea of maybe giving the exploration and the combat crowd a reason to work together, and then once they'd cleared it, giving the chance to actually go ahead into this area. But the fact that they put all this work in, they had this giant event, all of this went down, and then they get nothing on the other side, except the
That's why
same
I'm
invisible
torn.
wall.
See, that's the thing, right? It's like the non-player in me is like, that's fucking hilarious that they did this and made all these people do this stuff, and then just being like a big fuck you. Like, that's hilarious. But as a player and as a, like an explorer and someone who's been absolutely dedicated to Frontier and multiple fronts, and not just Elite, but Planet Coaster and stuff. I really do love their games, and I love Elite Dangerous, but every single thing that they've put in place, like a new system, has been janky or not quite like what they said it was going to be. And so it's like, they're like, oh, we're going to do this. And then you get it and you're like, oh, I guess it is what you said it was, but it's not quite what you said it was. Like the, when they first implemented the, reputation stuff, God, I can't remember. It's power play. When they introduced power play, it was really interesting and stuff, but it also felt like it was an unnecessary grind. And I guess it kind of is. It's just like that extra thing that you can do to like get RP in and stuff like that. Like you can choose factions and you get rewards and stuff. But if you wanted to like stay at the top, you get paid 50 million credits, which sounds like a lot, and it kind of is, but the amount of time and effort that you would have to put in without just sinking credits into doing, like, trying to stay there, it's not worth it. So everything that they've added, in my opinion, and I know that this is like an overall feel for a lot of people in the community, it is every time they add something, it's interesting, but it's not quite there. And I know that, like, so Frontier has said that they're implementing things that they're going to be, it's like iterations, they're going to be building off of those features. So when they first add a feature, it's kind of like bare bones, like not quite what you want it to be, maybe not even quite what they want it to be, And so while I really love Elite Dangerous, it is one of my most favorite games. Like I said, I have 1,000 hours in it, and I have every single expansion. I've bought many paint jobs, many of like little subtle details you can put in your cockpit and stuff, and I still will always back Frontier. But it's also pretty frustrating when they come in and they put in a new system and it's not quite good enough, or maybe it should have been in testing for a little bit longer, like just little things like that.
It's interesting because of the fact that they even admitted that the way that they had cordoned off the cone sector predated the introduction of the megaships. And long story short, they were not expecting this. This was something that they did not plan for.
As an explorer, and you get out there and you're like, wait, I can't jump to this system? What? Why can't I jump to this system? Oh, it's a permit locked. I'm 30-something thousand light years away. Why is there a permit here? There's nothing even here.
But one of the things that they had essentially said in response to all of this was, when it was revealed that, this essentially loophole was in place, they didn't want to simply shit on the player base by saying no. They didn't want to just flip a toggle. They definitely wanted to encourage the fact that this was essentially a community-run event. This was the players coming together to try and make something happen. I still feel like they didn't necessarily have to say no. They could have very easily said, not yet. I think it would have been essentially a brilliant introduction live event to the expansion. And it probably would have also driven sales of the expansion when it is finally released. But there's also the aspect of, well, we didn't want to tell people no, and we also want to give people things to do in the meantime. But it's essentially, it's turned into people have rammed their face into an invisible wall, and they're not amused by that.
Quite literally, some people died.
Well, and I suppose the other thing I'm curious about and what other people think about it is the people that were organizing this whole event, how much time did they waste doing this just to find out it was going to be a failed attempt? Like, there was no way they were ever going to succeed. How much time was wasted on that? What else could these people could have done in the meantime? I mean, time is a valuable thing, and it was just burned.
It was burned for a really good event, though. Like, that was an experience that brought 11,000 people together. And I think part of it is, like, that's the experience that makes the game interesting. It is probably the most interesting event that has happened in Elite Dangerous. And having bought the base game and nothing else, at this point, I'm like, I want to know when the next something like this happens.
I mean,
and so,
honestly, this is, I think, a far better example of a community event than, you know, even some of what you see going on in EVE. Just that little bit of input from the developers can really, really enrich it, instead of just being, oh, why did this thing happen in EVE? Oh, because 4chan and Reddit got bored.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying about Frontier is, and in Elite specifically, they have so much potential to do stuff, and they do some things very well, but sometimes it's a swing and a miss, you know? And it's often 50-50 if it's going to be like really good or really bad at the start. At least they do fix stuff. They do, like I said, they do iterations and things get better over time, but usually the first thing that they put in is like, maybe you guys should have really worked on this maybe a month or two more, you know?
Well, at the very least, despite all of the salt and all of the "I'm never playing this game again" that's going around.
There's a lot of that. That's always a thing, though. That's always a thing in Elite.
Despite that, I still gotta say, it's less glitchy and less of a ripoff than Star Citizen.
Star Citizen isn't even 1.0, though.
Yeah, and with all the money they have, why isn't it 1.0?
Because it takes time?
How much time have they had?
I'm not going to be shitting on Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous like some people do on the subreddits. Like, I have both of them. I will play both of them. I will judge both of them separately. Maybe comparison once in a while, sure, but it's literally like, I understand that they have a butt ton of money, but at the same time, it's not finished. So you're comparing a finished product, and some people would say that Elite Dangerous is not a finished product, and it's technically not, because they're still developing it and they have a roadmap and everything. But
to be frank, my biggest issue with Star Citizen boils down to what I consider to be mismanagement. It's a case of they've had so much time and so much money, there's next to no excuse. They have essentially suffered from their eyes being bigger than their capabilities, and they suffered from substantial feature creep. It's gotten to the point where they're trying to do so much at once that they're not doing anything right.
I haven't played Star Citizen in a while, but I have a pretty decent computer, and it does not run very well. So
there's room for optimization improvements. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm trying not to shit on the game just because it's not really finished yet, but at the same time, I do agree with you as well.
Like I
when
said,
will it be?
Like I said, my issue is
Look at
partially
Rimworld.
with the game, but mostly with the management and development of it. Anyway,
I think it's a fair criticism. I mean, how long, not to like go into another topic, but like, how long is a game supposed to be in early access before we can be like, okay, you've had enough time?
Not to mention the fact that, bluntly, early access with that kind of money behind them, it's like, why are people paying to be your alpha testers instead of you just forking out the money for proper QA? Seriously, the majority of QA testers aren't even being paid living wages.
I would probably also argue that early access stops becoming early access or beta or what have you when they start charging money for things that may be in game. Like when you start charging for things in game, it is no longer early access. It's no longer beta because you are charging your customers additional money for items within that game. So I would argue that is
like
the point.
Cosmetics and stuff.
Yeah. I would argue that's when.
As soon as you're essentially turning it into a monetization vehicle, the idea that you're selling an incomplete product is, I think, very backhanded.
I mean, do you guys remember the controversy from Ark Survival Evolved when they got sued and lost literally all of their money? And then they were like, oh, guys, we're doing a DLC. We're not 1.0 yet, but we're doing DLC. And people were like, what the fuck are you doing? And they're like, we don't have money. But nobody realized, or no one really cared, that they lost literally everything they had made in the previous year on that game. And the only reason why it's even around is because people bought the DLC.
We're getting back to what I would call mismanagement again.
Oh no. Well, okay. In Ark's defense, the lead dev was an idiot and broke contract. That's why they lost all of their money.
Good
I don't know if that's mismanagement so much as it is just straight up illegal, but
mismanagement's a good quotation marks word for that. Just saying.
But yeah, I definitely, on one hand, early access has this great benefit for being a great vehicle for particularly indie developers to be able to get their work out there faster, be able to get at least some revenue stream from it coming in, and being able to have, a large number of people kick the tires right away. But at the same time, I honestly do feel like hiring a proper quality assurance department is part of the fucking business. The idea that people are essentially booting stuff out the door incomplete just to start monetizing it right away is a new mentality that I don't necessarily think is healthy.
Well, I mean, you're starting to wander into a whole nother, like, big can of worms.
You could have a whole episode of the podcast specifically on that and only that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring
Think about all
of
the
that
examples, counterexamples. No, this is awesome.
That's a deep hole. We can dive down that hole, but it is a deep one.
Is it as big as my hole?
We don't have rails.
Dear.
We're not professional. We're not professional here. We don't have rails on this. We always start off the rail. I mean, we started with sunglasses on.
Touche.
It's true. We could end with sunglasses on if we wanted to.
I can definitely think of a few people that we may want to recruit for a future podcast on quality assurance and the monetization schemes of the gaming industry. Speaking of monetization schemes, though.
Aha! That was brilliant. Well played, Theora.
One of the things that we were looking at is the idea of loot boxes just keeps coming back up in the news over and over.
Yeah. So last I checked with Overwatch, there's this big thing. Belgium said, hey, this is actually gambling. We're not so cool about this. What's going on now?
Well, someone at Polygon seems to be under the impression that, it could be worse if it was a la carte, and went into this whole long article talking about how if Blizzard were to switch to an a la carte system instead of the loot box system, it would actually be worse for players because the loot skins would cost $10 or $15 based on previous sales of a la carte items, and that really the loot crate system isn't that bad, and it's utter bullshit.
I read the article that you had posted that this person had written, and as somebody who's played Overwatch and burnt themselves out on it, I only sort of care about the skins when I was playing. I don't really care now. People can do whatever they want to do, but in Overwatch, they were saying that if you drop $80 on loot boxes, you can get all of the skins, all the legendary skins. But if you don't do the medium to heavy play and stuff like that, you're not going to get all the extra other stuff. And I'm just like, how many people are actually getting literally every single skin? How many people actually care? Probably quite a few, but at the same time,
there are some collectors, yeah.
Of course, but those are what we call whales, and not everybody is a whale. In fact, a majority of us are not whales.
Yeah, but if your business model depends on calling people sea mammals, I would say that there are some issues with your business model.
I'm slightly offended by this statement.
You're not a
no. I am not a sea mammal, but
I saw some whales the other day as a complete tangent. Legit saw whales. It was one
off the rails
of
again.
course.
They like flapping. They like flapping their fins
and jumping out of water.
They're probably the same whales, actually. They're probably flapping their fins to give Blizzard money. They're just like, take my money.
So I think that we have a slight disagreement here between some of the co-hosts here. Like Diz and I think we both kind of agree that it's kind of dumb, but also, do we care?
Well,
like
I think one of my big issues with it is the fact that Polygon wrote this article in defense saying that it's actually not that bad. It would be worse if they didn't. And it sounded like something that would actually come from the publisher, that, oh no, it would be $10 to buy a skin. No, it wouldn't. There is no governing body that says that Blizzard has to charge $10 for a skin. You know who determines how much Blizzard charges for a skin? Blizzard does. And he talks about like the different tiers of loot: common, rare, epic, legendary. And he talked about sprays and voice lines, not voice packs, mind you, voice lines. And as far as like sprays are concerned, you know what I would say? Who gives a fuck? Honestly,
some other people love them,
but
some people do. Those collectors, man.
But sprays are garbage, and what those sprays are designed to do is to fill the loot boxes so that increases the likelihood that you will not get one of those preferred skins. And even
you just have to drop the $80.
That's the realistic recognition. Well, and that's what it is. Not everybody has the $80 to spare, but what would they be doing instead? Well, with the amount of revenue that they want to get out of this, they can either give it to you randomly and then you can hope to chance for whatever you want, or spend all of that cash to get everything
on
and not have to worry about it at all.
Because mind you, Overwatch is a $60 title. Like, look, I won't say the same thing about Heroes of the Storm. Like, their loot box system is just as shitty, don't get me wrong. But at least that game is a free-to-play game. So they have to make their money somewhere in that game, right? That makes sense. But the fact that Overwatch is already a $60 game, and then on top of it, they go through the same lottery system. The thing is if I wanted to go gambling, I'll go to a goddamn casino, because at least when I go to the casino, I have a chance to leave with the money I walked in with. Granted, it's slim, but there's a chance.
You have the chance to walk out with a skin, a legendary skin.
But that's not my money.
The point is that essentially we're discovering the fact that a lot of these loot boxes are built on the same psychological triggers that are used in establishments that are attempting to maximize profits through gambling. And the fact of the matter is there are some people that are more sensitive to becoming addicted to that kind of thing. Almost every developed country has some form of law regarding gambling and its regulation. And it's something that video games have skated underneath due to the fact that law is almost always lagging behind technological development. What we're looking at is part of the reason I think that Michelle is so indignant about this Polygon article is the fact that it's essentially acknowledging that, yes, this is not the greatest business practice. Oh, but it could be worse.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I
Look,
really hate that it could be worse, or other people are doing worse things.
yeah,
That's the shittiest argument you can come up with.
it is the absolute worst. Like,
I mean,
look,
look at
If it's bad, fix it.
yeah. I mean, here's the thing: you could be up to your neck in shit. It could be worse. You could be completely covered in shit. But being neck deep in shit is still pretty bad, right? Like, that is not a good thing to have. And again, like, I get that loot box systems have to generate money for free-to-play games. Like, look at Fortnite. There's a ton of stuff they get from that. Or from Heroes, or from Hearthstone, or whatever. But this is a $60 title that you're doing a loot box system in. You know what else did that? Star Wars Battlefront 2, and look how well that worked out for EA. I mean, Blizzard and Activision are stooping to the EA levels of being pretty crappy about trying to pick every single penny out of their customers' pocket.
And what's interesting too is they're not necessarily trying to scoop pennies out of every pocket. They're trying to maximize their profits on. We were even talking about whales. This an example that we talked about on a previous podcast was the guy who actually ended up filing a request under the new GDPR and actually forced Electronic Arts to send him the file that they had on him and his finances, and discovered over a period of 2 years he had spent over $10,000 on FIFA. That's not healthy.
No, but I also think that I don't think a lot of people are like that.
No,
I mean,
A
yeah,
lot of
some people are
You
definitely.
are absolutely correct. And it's a very small group of people. But saying that you're going to risk ruining the lives of a small group of people who can't handle something because psychologically they have an issue, there's an ethical dilemma there, right?
I mean, I totally agree with you. I definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
And to be frank, there are plenty of examples of, companies that are willing to be ethical and still make a profit. Warframe has actually been praised repeatedly for constantly rebalancing in attempts to make things fair and fun for players. One of the things that took a lot of people by surprise is the fact that at one point in the game, they introduced a system where for essentially the equivalent of 67 cents, you could, roll the dice to see if you could get a new skin for your pet. And pretty much in the first day that they were running this, they noticed some guy had run this microtransaction over 200 times. And you know what they did? They yanked it. The fact that it had that potential to be addictive, they literally removed the microtransaction and pretty much said, this isn't how we want it to work. We wanted people to be able to just throw out a cheap thing every once in a while for, a lucky chance. We weren't expecting someone to get obsessed with it.
So it sounds like the dilemma really does boil down to that small group of people who put in an extreme amount of money. The whales are being caught, and that's a bad thing.
It can be if they can't afford it. If there's something that's involved with it and they're taken advantage of, absolutely. I think my other big gripe with this, in particular, Polygon article, is that last I checked, those Polygon or any game journalists for that matter, or content creator, what have you, we don't work for publishers. We don't work for devs. We're consumers. We should be looking out for other consumers. Like, we understand that businesses need to make money in order to sustain themselves. That's not a dispute. I think that profitable companies are definitely good as long as the profits are done in a way that isn't morally objectifying anything, or it's just being horrible, right? Like,
I am a big fan of the idea of you offer me a product, I decide whether or not it is worth my money, and I either buy it or I don't. I don't like the idea of you are offering me a chance, and I'm handing you money in the hopes that I'll get what I want.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
finding a middle ground is good, because on the other side of things, there is some good excitement that can be had of like, hey, I got the skin on the first try. This was super cool. Like, I happened to get a Genji skin that way. I got the the Demon Mask one that everybody was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you have this.
Yeah.
When I
Well,
first got it, and it was super cool. But that's not going to happen to everybody, and that one person who is specifically looking for that skin spending, potentially hundreds of dollars looking for it, that's concerning too. So
yeah,
I mean, I think that there are some pretty easy controls that companies could put in this situation to still have a loot box. You could say, after X amount of money has been spent on the loot box for this season, we're just going to give you all the skins. That would be reasonable to do. Set it at something like $30, so it fits like the WoW subscription. If we have 6 events a year, $15 a month, that is a reasonable amount that people can expect to pay at that point, and thus you've avoided the addiction concerns that come up with that.
or even,
And I mean,
sorry, not to interrupt you, so I apologize, but not even, or what if they even had the option of, after so many loot boxes are purchased, like, you've spent a lot on this, here are the options, is like $1.99 or $2.99 for a skin. At that point, it becomes like small DLC packs, which that is a pretty general practice, and it's really not scoffed at too much. So it's kind of following that idea. Yeah.
I think that each of these solutions that you guys have come up with, they all have their own criticisms, but I mean, I don't know. I personally, I mean, look, first of all, we're expecting a company to stop making profits on their own terms. Like, that's not going to happen. Companies only care about making money, and if they can make more money, they're going to make more money, even if it is at the loss of somebody's house. They don't care.
The fact of the matter is, though, is that we've all seen that companies don't care. Companies care about their bottom line. And the problem is that if they don't self-regulate, they're going to get regulated somewhere else. Overwatch was forced to pull loot boxes in Belgium. Laws changed. It happened.
Yeah, and the way that they did it too is pretty telling as well, because Blizzard didn't go into courts with Belgium. They just said, hey, we're going to pull these loot boxes before you have a chance to have Belgian law say whether or not this can ever happen in the future. So they know that they're looking at their bottom line for it, because they do want to open up that possibility when things are more amenable to them to possibly do it, or find a better solution that has loot boxes and solves the bigger issue of those gambling addicts that are coming in and ruining their lives for it.
And what it boils down to is, part of what the law is supposed to do is to protect the least among us. And just because someone essentially has a psychological illness and an addictive personality does not mean that they are not worthy of some form of protection.
So I'll place the other question here. Obviously, there are whales that want to spend money, that have the money.
Star Citizen.
How does Blizzard get their money?
Honestly, I think we do loop back to the idea of, if they want money, then they should just put out products that are worth money. It's worth noting that I myself, I have actually spent $100 on a mobile game once. Can you guess which one?
Pokemon Go.
Nope. I spent $100 on the Kickstarter for Republic by a company called Camouflage. But what I got for it included a download of the game for iOS, a download of the game on Steam for my computer, a full soundtrack, as well as a replica printed leather-bound edition of the Overseer's Manifesto, notated by the rogue element in the game that was trying to defy this government. Republic is essentially a game that's heavily inspired by George Orwell's 1984, where you're essentially trying to help a young teenager who is being threatened with psychological reprogramming escape from a totalitarian police state. I was given that option to spend $100 to get more. And I took it because I believed that it was worth the money, and I was not disappointed.
Well, and okay, so that's one example. That was one that was through Kickstarter. I think another great example of where money can be made from not completely exploiting your customers is looking at ArenaNet and Guild Wars 2. Look at the gem system. You buy gems, you buy items within the gem store, you know what you're getting, and a substantial amount of money gets spent there, and there are whales there too, but those whales at least know what they're getting every single time they buy gems.
True.
And it's worth noting as well that Guild Wars 2 does have a loot box system. They do have their Black Lion chests and their Black Lion keys.
Yeah.
It's worth noting, though, that the boxes themselves drop from enemies, and you can collect them, and you can outright decide, okay, I don't want to deal with this, and sell it to another player. The keys drop within the game as well. You can get them as rewards for quests. There are certain quests that it's predetermined that you will get one. You can also
Speaking of whales,
you can also get them. Sorry. But, for example, my father actually had a crap ton of Black Lion keys lying around. It was a giant bonus for him due to the fact that one of the ways you can earn it is actually via exploration. Take that, Elite Dangerous. And he completed mapping on so many characters, he had a stack of these stupid keys. So at one point, when I ended up not getting the item that I wanted from a big old stack of these loot boxes that I had, he did and just gave it to me. And in fact,
I was gonna say I did the exact same thing where it was actually for my birthday. Look, I did it for my birthday because that was last week. Last week I opened 50 chests and I got what I wanted from it too. But it was still
that actually is something that I wanted to talk about. Of course. You didn't. I mean, you're not a whale.
What are you trying? Are you trying to say I'm fat, Hippo? Holy shit, that is so rude.
You're calling me Hippo? Are you trying to say that I'm fat? Yeah. So here's something like on that topic is that there are YouTube channels that are basically just about opening loot boxes. Like Hearthstone. Like
yeah?
Blizzard is notorious for this stuff. Hearthstone, you got Overwatch. I'm sure there's others that they have. What is it? Heroes of something or other. HOTS.
Oh, Heroes of
I'm
the
sure
Storm?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that also has a loot box system
It does.
in it.
Well, it's just like an unboxing, isn't it? But you know, when you have a viewership, let's say if you're like a Trump or a TB or Jesse Cox or a Boogie2988 or one of those people, and they have that type of viewership, the reason they do that is because they know they'll make a crap ton of money from the viewership, which self-sustains what they're doing. I think those type of whales are dieting whales, I suppose.
I think
They're not actually spending their own money.
I think it says something, though, that this is obviously has some sort of, addictive psychological reward, that you can get viewership for unboxing something that the viewer isn't even going to get.
Yeah.
It is oddly satisfying. And I
don't
have to admit, I've watched them. I've totally watched them.
I don't get it. I don't care. Somebody's like, oh, I'm going to open a pack. I'm like, wake me up when you're done.
But just because you don't experience it yourself does not actually eliminate the fact that the phenomenon exists.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I don't understand it. It bores the crap out of me when someone's like, let's open a pack. Like, oh, okay, I'm going to go find someone else to watch, or I'm going to literally do anything that I can do for myself instead of watching you do something like that.
I think it's the idea of watching, like, if someone gets what they want out of a box like that, it's like watching them succeed at something, and it's a pure gamble. But it's the same reason that people might watch like blackjack or something. I don't know.
Or shiny
That's another
Pokers
thing.
and Pokemon.
I don't get it. I mean, I don't get the poker stuff. It's like a huge thing here on Twitch, and I don't get
Dizza.
it. Dizza, are you a poker watcher?
A little bit. Although Poker has skill. Poker has skill.
No,
Poker has strategy. Poker
does.
has
It's not
this
just
element that is
opening-
much more than chance.
It's not just clicking a button and being like, I guess I didn't get the thing I wanted yet.
But people still get that feeling when it is complete chance, and that's a fascinating part. And yeah, I don't get a ton of that.
Mm-hmm.
I understand watching poker more than watching somebody open a freaking loot box. All they're doing is clicking. They're not even like, there's no skill involved. It's literally, I'm gonna click this button and I might get something I want, or maybe I won't.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's some sort of Pavlovian joy to it.
Mm.
Except for the fact that it doesn't happen all the time. It's the fact that it is random.
Interesting. I think this is maybe a good spot to take our break then, isn't it?
This would be a good time, I think.
I need
All
to
right.
go open some loot boxes.
Damn it. God damn it. All right.
God, I gotta get rid of all of those now that I've made this point.
I can't do this on stream.
Oh, God. All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and take a break then. Don't go too far away, though. The Newbcast will return in a short bit.
Did you really wait for this moment to make sure that everybody gets to see my disdain about you eating that Pepperidge Farm Milano cookie that we are not being paid for advertisement on?
Hashtag
Yeah.
not an ad.
Guys, welcome back to the Newbcast Podcast. We're gonna have to be careful because if we keep going at this length at this rate, we may become the next 3-hour gaming podcast.
5 hours.
Could be.
5 hours, you know. Look, it's
Do
a
you really
normal.
want to do that to
best.
yourself? Hold on. Do you really want
3
to?
hours is like a normal podcast with like 2 people just talking about different various subjects, right? There's 4 of us.
Do you think we could do a 24-hour podcast anniversary stream?
Oh my gosh.
No.
100% believe that we could do that. We should
Can
definitely.
we call it the filibuster-thon?
I will support this.
Wow, guys, welcome back. The Newbcast Podcast to a gaming podcast where we're not professionals, we don't pretend to be, or do we? What else do we have to talk about for today? I know that we were talking about like all the financial stuff in games, and there's sadder news in that realm of the gaming world too, in the way of Wildstar.
I remember Wildstar when it first came out, and I put a lot of money into it.
Yeah,
Then it became free to play.
and then
And then I was
when
just
Wild-
upset because I spent money on this game, and that's free to play.
Yeah,
How could they?
I played Wildstar actually during my arcade alpha play, which was a whole different story. But a lot of our guild moved to Wildstar when it launched, and a lot of the other part of the guild who stayed behind were pretty mad that they went and played Wildstar. So I bought Wildstar and I played it, and I really enjoyed it. more so than Arcade, and that's sad to say because I was in the best guild on the server. But
right.
I have to say Wildstar, it has such I have such fond memories of Wildstar because I played it with a few friends that I was very close with. We had so much fun. You could do silly things. There was like houses, and the humor was so ridiculous and over the top. It was so good though.
Yeah.
You know, saying "was" over here is a little concerning to people, I'm sure.
Yeah, the reason that the word "was" is being used is that Carbine Studios, the developer behind Wildstar, announced that they are shutting their doors, which means that Wildstar will also be shutting down once and for all. So I feel like pressing F to pay respects is an appropriate response for Wildstar. But it's kind of a shame to see another MMO type game go down, and especially one that did show promise like it did, and it did show that there was potential in it, and yeah. The part I wasn't able to find enough information on is if NCSoft had any role to play in this, or if it was at Carbine's level of management that resulted in it.
Well, I'm not sure, but it sucks to see not only another game that people can play and spend time with and enjoy, that was actually very polished, go down, but then you also have all those people that, that was their job. That was how they make a living. That was how they are paying their bills and supporting their family, and now they no longer have that stability.
Yep. Yeah. Then, God, I think that's one of the hardest things. Like, back in the day when we used to be a writing site, and when I was writing for other sites too, like it was always the hardest thing to report was when studios shut down. Because although there may be things about what leadership at the studio we didn't agree with as consumers, a lot of those people who were making the game and just doing something that they enjoyed and wanted to share with the world, they didn't get to do it anymore. They were jobless and back in the market for new work, and who knew if they got to do it again.
Could you imagine being one of the devs? Because so the main devs came over from WoW, not all of them, but a lot of the main devs came. They worked on WoW for a while.
Yep.
And then when they released it, there was so much hype. I remember there was so much hype around Wildstar, and some people were like, "This is gonna be a WoW killer," and I'm like, "How many games have been a WoW killer?"
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that one was. It had the most potential, I think.
It was one of them.
It was unique.
It was very unique. I really liked it. And in fact, I recently, with a partner friend, we've been playing with the community. We've been playing Wildstar. So when this news broke, I was like, oh, no, what are we gonna do? But then it's like, well, there's other games that we can play. But it's free to play, and it was like really good.
Yeah, so it looks like it was NCSoft. The statement that came from them was, today we are closing Carbine Studios and will begin the process of winding down Wildstar down to ultimately shutter the game. Wildstar players who spent money within the game will be refunded purchases from July 1st until the payment system is shut off. We are also in the process of identifying teams that will be doing the work to bring Wildstar to a close. These decisions were very difficult to make, and we are in the midst of shifting many of our teammates as possible to other roles within the organization.
I will say that refund of the last month purchases, that's a very classy move that you do not see very often.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate it a little bit. I know I've been critical of NCSoft in the past, but I can respect that decision, and I'm also glad to hear that there's at least going to be some attempt to keep some of their staff and teammates on and moving them to different projects and such. I don't know if that means that they're shifting studios or if that means relocations for anyone, but if it ultimately ends up with not everyone loses their jobs, then great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anytime that a studio closes, anytime that any business closes like this, even if you have an opportunity elsewhere, it can be very difficult as a family, if you have a family, to go ahead and do that. And some people just don't want to go out of their physical location. They love a city. They don't want to change that up. So people are going to have to make some tough decisions. I think that, like any good major corporation out there, they're doing the right standard steps to help out their staff, which is great. And nobody likes a decision like that. It's always going to be a tough thing, but I think all in all, they're handling it well, and NCSoft is proving that they want everybody involved to still have trust in them and the other projects they do.
Yeah, so I just popped over to their page because I thought they were doing other projects too, and it looks like that was the last thing they were working on. Everything else has been shifted over to other studios to work on.
I mean, it's sad to say that we've gotten to the point nowadays where MMOs are just boom bust, make or break. It's a very, very difficult market to break into because you essentially are having developers slicing up the same pie and arguing over the same pieces because of the fact that they are such massive time sinks that it is incredibly uncommon to get a player that is going to play more than one of them.
Yeah, well, well, yeah, but also MMOs are, like you said, it's a hit or miss, and it's literally just good luck or you're not making it, because they're the most expensive game to create and then to maintain. And anyone who has an idea that they want to make an MMO, good luck, because like you said, there's already well-established games. Like WoW has been out for 15 years, something, or maybe a little bit less, something insane. But like, and then there's like Guild Wars.
Mm-hmm.
There's WoW and Guild Wars.
It's actually very interesting that Guild Wars, while is not a WoW killer, it funnily enough actually grows and shrinks at proportionally to WoW's player base when you track their player numbers. It's like they've gotten their piece of the pie and they're usually maintained right about with the same amount as WoW is going.
I suppose the question I'm a little curious about at that point is, so we've seen this trend a little bit with some MMOs shutting down. Like, what other ones do we feel may see the same fate based on kind of the trends that we've seen? I mean, it's like Hippo said, it's a really hard market to get into and then maintain yourself in.
Can I just ask, how RuneScape? How? I don't understand.
Chopping trees, that's where it's
Yeah.
at.
I would have definitely accepted the death of RuneScape before Wildstar.
Yeah.
Easily.
There's a memorial that I think I almost right. There's a memorial in RuneScape because it's a free to play game where I almost wanted to just go play it just to get that one memorial once. And after that they can shut down, but I want to see it in person sometime.
I don't get it. I played it. I played old school RuneScape and then the newer one, and I don't get the love. I guess it's nostalgia, right? From way back when.
Yeah.
It's like playing on those heartstrings. Because when I was a kid, I didn't play that crap. I played EverQuest.
I would still probably play the original Ragnarok online for a couple of weeks just to go back and see what it was like. And that was my first MMO.
Maybe it's just for the OCD folks, and that's how they're able to play RuneScape.
I don't know. I have friends who only play RuneScape, and I'm just like, how?
Yeah, I don't know either.
It's like 2000. It's almost 2019, and you're still playing it. Okay.
One that I think there's two possible ones, and if you consider the franchises that they represent, like, it would be relatively surprising, but it could happen, is one, Star Trek Online. That player base has been dwindling, which is too bad because, like, the Q event every Christmas is a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with the Q event.
I literally go back and play that game just for that event.
Yeah.
I don't play it the rest of the year, although I have to say I have put in too much money into that game. That's all I'm gonna say. Too much money.
Yep. The other one being Star Wars: The Old Republic.
They have been really bad with their free to play model, to the point where all I would do in that game was play the market. I liked playing the market, like craft some crappy things, sell it, make some cash, buy stuff, sell at low, and then sell high and just make money like that. But nowadays it's like they limit you on pretty much everything that you do. So it's like, you can just play something else.
Unfortunately, the Old Republic ended up taking a free-to-play model that I've seen frequently. One of the more egregious examples that I ended up dealing with was also Champions Online, where when they moved from paid subscription to free-to-play, instead of making everything that was already available, kind of like how Guild Wars 2 makes the entire base game available with fairly minimal restrictions. They instead ended up crafting a system that attempts to annoy you into subscribing.
Yeah.
Hey, would you like another bag?
Yeah. Something I really dislike in free-to-play MMO subscription type deals is you're not allowed to talk to friends or have friends.
Yeah.
What? It's like, well, okay, you want me to subscribe, you want me to give you money, but just so that I can play with my friend?
Yeah.
I could just go play a free-to-play game that allows me to play with my friend.
Right.
It's... I don't know. I mean, I understand like children. I feel like they're taking advantage of children here, or whales. But it's certain models, and I'm gonna say like the Star Wars, like that model is dying. It's not gonna be a thing. Like
WoW is surviving on subscriptions more or less entirely because of the fact that they hit ground floor. They built a massive player base, and honestly, the players are keeping the players there.
Yep.
Exactly.
Part of the reason why free-to-play works is because of the fact that a lot of developers acknowledge the fact that other players are content. Interacting with people, having those connections is what's going to keep someone there. Because if you have a really great game, but your player base is utterly shitty, it's going to drive people away.
Overwatch. That's why I don't play anymore. There's too many shitty people on there.
Yeah, limiting social mechanics is honestly one of the stupidest things you can do.
Yep. I know that
Rainbow
was a
Six
gripe.
too.
That was a gripe in Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You guys hear about Rainbow Six's banning people for saying stupid shit? Just outright banning them. If they say something racially, like slurs and stuff like that, just instant ban. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's finally some companies like, our player base is really toxic and we need to do something about it. And then they did. And then people got really mad. They're like, we paid full price for this game and I just got banned. But it's like, well, maybe you shouldn't have been a dickhead. Did you think about that? Did you think about not being a fucking asshole? Did you think?
No.
You didn't, did you? And now you get punished for it.
We have no problems with it in other situations. Like, you buy a car, you decide to go speeding and cut everybody off. Guess what's gonna happen, guys?
I will say that I really do love what Guild Wars 2 has done to try and build a positive player base from the beginning. They actually purposefully crafted their mechanics to attempt to foster player cooperation and outright looking forward to seeing other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually is one of the reasons what kept me in Guild Wars, the Guild Wars 2, is that you're never fighting another player for loot or whatever. You're never like in direct competition with another person, which, like you said, fosters not competitiveness, but a will to work together and way less salt. The only salt I ever see is in fractals when you fail. You're an idiot. You didn't know how to do this mechanic. Rage more nerd.
I mean, the fact that they actually have things like XP and achievement awards for helping other players, resurrecting them, resuscitating them.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that every player gets loot from kills. The fact that you can't kill steal people, and every player who hits the enemy gets equal XP.
Yeah.
I wish that there were more MMOs that fostered that kind of mentality of let's co-op, not and especially as somebody like myself who was very antisocial when I first started, and I still am in MMOs, like play with another person. What?
Yeah, only on Tuesdays, right?
Right. But that's the great thing about Guild Wars is that you don't have to talk to somebody. You can just work together.
Yeah.
Like when you're in those big Zergs fighting the world bosses and stuff, and somebody dies, you just get them up.
Yep.
Because that's what you do, because it's in your best interest to help that person get up and not die, because they are extra damage.
Maybe that's part of what it is. It's that whole, it's in your best interest to make sure that other people are succeeding as well. And having a player base that's actually there and visible helps a ton too. I mean, you think of large visible player bases, and the games that immediately come to mind is Guild Wars 2, Final Fantasy 14, and WoW. There was a video I watched on YouTube. I forget which channel it was, but they did "Is ArcAge dying in 2018?" and
it died before launch.
Well, look, I'm not going to dispute that, but what I'm going to point out is that they played for half an hour before they encountered another player. Half an hour.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Wow.
Where were they? I need to find
the starting zone. They were in the starting zone. You know, that area where you think, at least if there's a small player base, there's that chance that someone's an altaholic and they made a new alt and they're starting that new alt. No, half an hour, and that was in the capital city. And the capital city looked like a ghost town.
Yeah, see, that's kind of how Wildstar was too.
And it seems like that a lot too. Like if you look at like Aeon or Terra or did I just hit a soft spot?
I saw that. You all right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Did your heart just go a little twinge, like the pum pum?
Yeah.
Hey,
I was so excited for Aeon when it first came out.
I mean, hell,
all these games.
Even if you go to London in the secret world, you'll still find players.
Yeah, I hear that game got way better after launch, but nobody was interested in it because it took them so long to do something about how bad it was when it was released.
Their combat system was pretty boring.
The combat system sucks, which is too bad because the writing is witty and it's funny and it's good. The writing is so good in that game, but the combat sucked. Like, so I was gonna say, you've played Star Trek Online, right? You know the best part about Star Trek Online is the space battles, right? And you know that when you get when you beam down to a planet's surface and you're doing the surface combat, it's like that. It's that bad.
I really didn't like the surface combat all that much. It's very like.
Yeah, the surface combat is very stiff, and what ended up also being a real hang-up for the Secret World is the fact that all of the different weapons felt exactly the same. They, in their attempts to balance them, they made them boring and so much like each other, right down to the timing. It's like I can literally fire off 3 shots in the exact same amount of time as swinging a sword 3 times, and the amount of time of punching someone with, you know, a melee weapon 3 times. They were just terrible.
Well, that's depressing.
But even that game, with all of its problems, still has a more active player base than ArcAge.
Yeah.
Like I said, you know, I was really into ArcAge in the alpha. You know, I paid that like $150 or whatever to play. I've really enjoyed it because I was in one of the best guild. I would say it was the best guild, considering we had 3 castles when you're only supposed to only have 1. We kind of got around those. Anyway, the devs didn't even think of the things that we did. But we had a lot of fun. But then when it launched, it was dead on launch. It, like they made changes, and Wildstar was out at the time, and it had been going for like a good month and a half. So like a lot of people were already like super invested into Wildstar. And you know, when ArcAge went 1.0 or whatever launched, you had to start all over again, and there was like always a rush, and it was like direct competition. Or you could play Wildstar, which has PvP, but it's a lot more relaxed, a lot more chill, and it didn't take itself so seriously, whereas ArcAge really took itself seriously. Another MMO that I really like. I don't
Yeah.
know about you guys, which I know is dying. Unfortunately, it is Black Desert Online.
You know,
That game, I love that game.
that's another one that's on my list that I was looking at, like, because I think the biggest thing that had that Black Desert had going was that character creation. It was so damn pretty.
I wish more people would take character creation to that level. But
Me too.
the biggest problem with Black Desert Online is that once you got past the very, very pretty character creation, it was just another Korean grinder. And I am never doing one of those again. I played one when I was quite young, and those are quite a few hours of my life I'm never getting back.
Dare I ask
love
which one?
Black Desert.
Last Chaos.
Okay.
I mean, technically my character had over 1,000 hours in the game, but I probably had a bit less because you can stay online. They encourage you to be like, hey, you know what? You gotta sleep. Go fish while you're sleeping. It's automatic. Your inventory you may have some rotten fish. Keep fishing. Go do stuff. Which I loved. I loved that. My computer never turned off. I mean, it never turns off now, but it never turned off then too. But
Sure.
it was so good. It was so good. But I'm over it now, unfortunately, because I'm not a hardcore PvP person in that. I mean, that's pretty much end game for that game.
Sure. I think what else is there? Like Terra, I don't think you can find a single soul in anymore. I don't know how they're.
It's so depressing. Like I said before, I found a girlfriend in that game and we dated.
Oh, yeah.
She moved here. We dated for like 3.5 years. That was just some random person on the side of a dungeon, like looking for a group. I'm like, hey, come with me.
You can make friends that way though. Like one of my best friends is a friend. Is WoW, but she was trying to find a cat in the storm and I just auto followed her and she's like, "Can I help you?" I'm like, "No, I'm just tagging along." So yeah, you can absolutely do that. But yeah, I mean, there's that. Has anyone talked about Blade and Soul since it launched?
I really liked Blade and Soul.
Because I played it.
It was actually really fun.
I mean, there were elements that were fun. I felt like after 3 hours, I was just like, sure, I'll come back to it. And then I never did.
I mean, it's sad that with MMOs, they have to be unique, they have to be fun, and there's a delicate balance of making sure that people don't run through the content too quickly, but still respecting their time.
Korean grinding games, they don't give a fuck.
No.
They're like, you gotta kill 15 million of this one mob, and then you can move on to the next where you have to kill 30 million of the next mob. And that is exactly why I stopped playing Black Desert, because you literally spend hours and hours and hours in the same spot, and then you move on. And you know what? If I wanted that, I would just go play fucking EverQuest, okay? That's what I would do. I would get on the EMU servers and go play EverQuest, because that's exactly what it was.
Isn't EverQuest dead now too?
But with nostalgia.
You're not coming through, Michelle.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Isn't EverQuest dead too?
Oh yeah, I mean, the first one, actually there's still, I don't know if they brought new servers. I know that I'm thinking of WoW, but EverQuest, like the original, is pretty done. I mean, there's an emulated server. And then there's EverQuest 2, which was a flop.
Yeah.
It would, I think it was pretty much dead within the first year. I mean, it's still around, but it's not.
Oh no, you can still play the original. I just looked. EverQuest.com is still live. You can play for free. Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's the thing, is like the whole reason why EverQuest was such a good game, because back then there wasn't quite anything like it. And the community, you played, you had to play together. And now that community is gone, and there's 1,000 nerds playing by themselves, and it's not any fun. Like, it's like, oh, it's nostalgia is great, but it's not. I mean, I think Jesse and Krindor they did a thing a few years back where they visited the EMU servers, and they're like, I think they did it with Strippin as well. And they're like, check this out, guys. And Jesse's like, this was amazing back in the day. And Krender's like, this is fucking terrible. What are you talking about? This is awful. This is so stupid. Because Krender didn't play.
Right. Well, and I think anyone that didn't play something that was popular is. I'm just kind of looking at I think that Sony Online Entertainment just put the kibosh to a lot of the various EverQuest titles that were in the works, or because I'm looking as like canceled. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So the last thing
what was it? EverQuest Next. I was so looking forward to EverQuest Next.
Canceled.
And then they canceled that too.
To put it in perspective, the last EverQuest title that was released 13 years ago.
EverQuest 2?
EverQuest Champions Return to Arms. Wait, yeah, that's part of the EverQuest franchise. Yeah, there you go.
God, I'm old. You guys, I'm really old.
No kidding.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you agree, Michelle.
You want to feel old?
No, I don't. I already do.
The very first MMO I ever played predated WoW, and it got
Me
picked
too.
up and canceled
EverQuest.
twice.
Which was?
Mist Online Uru Live.
I've never even heard of that before.
Missed Online.
It didn't last very long, sadly. Part of the problem it was a game that involved no combat, no commerce, nothing of that sort. It was all based on exploration and puzzle solving, like any Myst game. And the problem they had was that the player base was so helpful to each other and putting their brains together that they were burning through the content faster than they could make it.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
But one of the really interesting things about it is the fact that because of the fact that there was no, money or prestige or combat or anything of that sort, it fostered a really, really great community, because honestly, the only way to show off was to show your knowledge and to help people.
I saw this back during our first run of the Newbcast podcast. We actually did like some YouTube stuff as well. We had a series called Noobify Me, where we had one person that knew a game really well and a person that had no idea what the hell was going on. And Crafty had taken me through Uru, and we ran into two people that was like, oh my god, other players. Here, let me show you everything. And it was really cool to get this, like, be inundated with all this information about the game, but at the same time it was like, there's no one here. Like, I see more people in my Skyrim playthrough, and of course you get the joke because Skyrim's not online.
I feel slightly responsible for certain games staying alive though. As a content creator, we have an audience that we can be like, hey guys, we really like this game, come check it out with us. And then some of those people will be like, oh, actually this game's pretty cool. I like this.
Well, sure. I mean,
so
it's how many people have we dragged back to Guild Wars because of that?
I agree.
Fair.
You got Corey to play. You got me to play. You got Nova to play.
Yeah. So there's
like at least 3 people, and then Corey, she's got a pretty big audience. So if she ever decided to talk about Guild Wars at all,
the last couple times I've hosted her, she's done that. So she's just like, oh, you play Guild Wars again? God, I should play that again. It's like, yeah, you should. It'd be fun. You should add me so I can do stuff with you. And so I love how we have the random non-topic that we're having. But as we go on, what about other games that were popular, like ESO?
You know what? I actually enjoyed ESO when I played it, except for like when I was getting to the end game, like it seemed a little ridiculous. I don't remember exactly what I didn't like about it because it was so long ago and I didn't really have an informed opinion at the time. But I quit playing, or like 6 levels away from being max level. Oh, it was an update that they had done to PvP.
Oh,
now,
that's right.
That game was the reason I played PvP specifically, like in that game, because it was it was awesome. It was literally like you're in a castle, you're fighting an army who's trying to come and take a castle, or you're trying to take their castle, and it was really fun. And then they added prestige, and it kind of killed it.
Okay.
But I recently tried to get back into ESO because I saw that like they were coming out with a new expansion. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I really want to get in. I want to go check it out. Like, I will spend money on this game because I'm interested in playing this game again. And I cannot get their email system to send me a code to log in.
Oh, yeah.
So it's bad. It looks bad on them as a content creator if I say, hey, I can't even get into your game. I can't play your game. I can't give you money. I can't even log into the site because your email system is garbage.
You're not the only one experiencing that. I actually had a similar thing where I was going to do it on stream, and the game kept crashing when I was creating my character. Like, I couldn't log in to create a character. So it's like, well...
It sucks because I actually really enjoyed it, and I spent like quite a bit of money on that game, and now I can't even log in. So I will not be giving the money. I will not be playing. I will not be generating content for them. I mean, there's already plenty of other people playing it on stream.
But it's one person's like, here's my experience with it, and it's like, I don't want to say this, but it's something that I experienced, and you should be aware of it too. And it's when it's not exclusive problems, and you know, it's too bad. I can't even file a ticket because I can't log into the goddamn website because they won't send me a code. At this point, I have to tweet at them.
Yeah.
I was about to say, you might have to just hit the point of bothering them on Twitter.
But that's ridiculous. If I'm having that, how many other people are having that issue? If Michelle, out of 4 people here, I don't know if you played Dizza, but okay, so Crafty, did you play? Okay, so 100% of the player base on this podcast is having the problem. Okay, 100%. Percent.
Sure.
So I mean, come on, guys, what are you doing? Get your shit together.
That percentage tells a lot. It tells a very strong tale.
Yeah.
I did try it a little bit in the beta, and that was fine, but I never actually played it live.
There you go. I don't know. I guess I can drop a couple more titles just to see what responses are and whatnot, and then we can move on to our next topic, if that's all right with you. So next title drop.
I'm super interested.
Eon, go.
I played like 15 hours of that game, maybe.
Never touched it.
You know what?
I probably played 40 to 50 and got the beautiful pre-order tin box for it.
Oh, that's the...
Are you a whale?
It was a gorgeous box. It was a gorgeous box. No, I don't think it cost more than getting the game. It was just that you had to pre-order for it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think one of the issues that I saw with the game was how certain spells had the same voice line over and over and over.
Oh yeah, I remember you were trying to play it and I almost threw your speakers out the window.
My laptop, but yeah.
I have a completely off-topic game that's like that. Since nobody has played this, you probably have never even heard of this game.
Fire.
It's called Dead Front 2. I don't know if any of you have heard of this game. It's your MMO zombie shooter. A viewer of mine turned me onto this game. He really wanted me to play it with them, so I downloaded it. It's free on Steam, and I've played 14 minutes of it. I don't know if that'll give you any indication of how much I enjoyed playing that game. I started. You spawn on a rainy night in the middle of a road with other people running around. I happened to go into the first building that I saw on the left side, walked in, looted a naked dead woman, walked upstairs. She was cut in half, by the way. I walked upstairs.
Important details.
Yes, a very, very large, bloated woman attacked me. I shot her in the head, and Oh, did you know that every time you open a door, it's the exact same sound effect, the exact same stock sound effect, that you literally open doors less than 5 seconds sometimes back to back to get, so you have to load. There's loading into rooms. This is made by a guy, like one guy, so it can't be too bad, but it's not a good game in my opinion. Maybe I should spend some more time in it, but from the just opening the doors and having the exact same stock door opening sound effect, really was like telling to me.
Yeah, no, I think that's yeah, that's a sign. I think another game that had failed at its start was Bless Online.
Oh, the game that was supposed to be like Black Desert, only not.
Yeah, it was
was
it a Japanese publisher?
I don't know. I don't remember. I thought it was another Korean one, but I didn't look into the game because I had already played Black Desert. I was like, why play another Black Desert that's slightly different?
I think it says something about how desperate people are for shakeups of the MMO formula, that they were getting super hyped over Bless, and then just...
That's the thing. Like, we, as a MMO player, like I don't play it on stream or anything, but that is my favorite kind of game to play because I can just zone out and do stuff and spend a lot of time in it. And we haven't had a super interesting MMO. Like, we had Guild Wars 2, and then we had Black Desert Online. Those were like the ones that stand out to me. And the reason why I liked Black Desert was because it was so different. It was like, hey, you should stay online. Hey, you can do all this stuff. Hey, look at our character creator.
It was pretty.
It's a gorgeous game. I love playing that game. I streamed it a long time ago, back when I started streaming. But I just, it's just, I can't get into these new games because they're basically a clone with slightly different things changed. And it's like, that's not going to keep us.
No.
Even if we do buy your game is still going to go down the toilet because you're not going to have that retention that you need for an MMO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, let's give Final Fantasy 14 some credit here. They were literally copying and pasting maps together when it first released, and then they realized, hey, nobody's going to accept this crap. Completely rebuilt the game. And those hardcore players that played through it despite the original launch, I just bless them. If we're going to refer to bless them.
Yeah, all credit to them for realizing it was broke and there was no fixing it and rebuilding from scratch, though Square Enix can kind of... They need to get their heads out of their asses as they tried to downplay all the money that they were losing. Oh, well, that was just because of Deus Ex's Human Revolution's delay, and Tomb Raider underperformed. It's like, oh, so it had nothing to do with the fact that you had to completely rebuild an MMO, which is a massive game type, from scratch. Sure, Square Enix. Sure.
In comparison to a AAA title selling how many millions of copies, it was just underperforming. Yeah.
I think one of the things that really works for the MMOs, like some of the most successful ones that we can think of, sure, some of them are organic and they are of their original creation, but like Warcraft is based off of 3 very, very popular RTSs. Star Wars: The Old Republic, for a while when it was really popular. It's Star Wars. I mean, some of these titles that did really well. Elder Scrolls Online, Final Fantasy 11 and 14, they're based on popular franchises. People recognize the name. The people recognize the franchise names. EverQuest, Guild Wars, and Wildstar, I guess you could say, were some of the are examples of titles that are organic to the MMO market, but that's a very small minority. And I think one of the things that would make the whole genre succeed is if they're able to tap into a franchise that hasn't seen the MMO world before. Because trying to do it organically, I think it's proven that it doesn't work that well. And if you strike gold, congrats, because that's exactly what it is. You've struck gold. Most of the time, you're coming up with dirt.
Saw the MMO.
So, okay, let's get onto this other topic that that are in the show notes.
Yeah.
So, this one is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Please go. Yes. No. Crafty, what?
I'm just welcoming you to take off.
Oh, okay.
Come on.
Yeah. So,
Why is it so interesting to you?
Kingdoms of Amalur. Are you familiar with this game?
Oh,
I played quite a bit of it. A wonderful game. And it could have gone a lot further, but just kind of got dropped, really.
Yes. This is very interesting to me.
And how many people here are familiar with the woes of 38 Studios? The developer behind Kingdoms of Amalur.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They had problems shortly after Kingdoms of Amalur, correct?
Yeah, during.
Yeah, it was during it.
So THX, right? THQ, I mean.
THQ. Yep.
Acquired Kingdoms of Amalur, and I think this is very interesting. But did you guys do you remember when it came out? Do you remember like how much hype was around it? Do you remember any of that?
There was a ton of hype. And it scored pretty well overall. I think it was ranging between 7 and 9 on scores in a lot of places. Like it was scoring pretty well. I think that
freaking R.A. Salvatore.
Yeah, I think seeing that franchise being acquired by, I guess what else has THQ worked on that we can compare on that can allow us to be really hopeful about where Amalur will go?
I know that they buy up different games. Didn't they like bankrupt and then they were bought out again by someone else?
I feel like that's something that sounds like something that happened.
I mean, the most notable game that I played from THQ that unfortunately has nothing to do with Amalur would be the Metro series, which was remarkably well done.
Oh, sure.
Although
one of my favorite all-time series.
Or Darksiders, I suppose, is another great franchise that was.
Darksiders could be more comparable to Amalur.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, they buy up publishers, don't they?
Well, or at least as studios. I suppose
or
mentioning
developers.
I suppose mentioning that particular one, mentioning Darksiders, and then how it's a similar like gameplay and even feel, like maybe that in itself shows promise to where Kingdoms of Amalur could go.
It's also worth noting that when THQ obtained Kingdoms of Amalur, did they also end up obtaining the work in progress that 38 Studios had when they were actually attempting to make an Amalur MMO, and they shut down in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I suppose the question is, are they going to pursue just straight up sequels to Kingdoms of Amalur, because it was scoring 8s and 9s pretty consistently across the board, or are they going to attempt to do anything with the MMO? Because it's worth noting that when 38 Studios shut down, some of the developers outright admitted, I mean, part of the reason the MMO fell through and didn't get released in time to make them any money is the fact that, quite simply, their own developers thought it was boring as hell. It just wasn't fun.
That says something, I think.
I'm looking at the designers, and there was R.A. Salvatore, Ken Roston, and Todd McFarlane. Now, I don't know which. I remember back when it was being released, Day 9 had a release that was like a really interesting thing. He had guests, and the guests were R.A. Salvatore and someone else, and it had so much hype and stuff, but I don't remember. There was like a baseball guy too behind it, and I was like, what? Why baseball guy?
He was
like
the money.
Yeah, he was just like really into it. He was a super nerd too, which was really funny.
Unfortunately,
I mean,
wasn't
he clearly
all the money. part of why 38 Studios ended up falling apart is because of the fact that they made some pretty wild promises about job creation and the like to secure a quite a bit of state funding, and they were not coming through on their promises.
Wow. There is a lot of swinging things in Kingdoms of Amalur, so I think in that regard that makes sense that that the private profit was happening, or contributions.
But yeah, they'd actually gotten a $75 million loan, so they were supposed to be paying that back. It was a $75 million loan from Rhode Island.
Good lord.
And if you've never been to Rhode Island, you would understand.
Oh, that's right. I remember reporting on that article, and I thought it was like, because Rhode Island was trying to keep that there, so there was something notable there and jobs there, and yeah, I remember that.
Well, it's just interesting that it had such big names, and like R.A. Salvatore wrote like all the Dritz stuff and like half of the Forgotten Realms books, you know, so you would expect like a lot of good stuff coming from that, and then they just tanked. I don't know what happened.
It was a pretty complicated mess that a lot of other places have reported on. A lot of mismanagement and money getting thrown around.
There you go. Okay. See, I saw the launch and I was like, oh, I gotta get this game, but at the time I didn't have a job, so I didn't buy it, and then it kind of just flew under the radar ever since.
My biggest problem was the fact that I got the demo for it, and I glitched it to all tarnation, and it became unplayable, and I was just like, I'm not impressed. Nope. And that's why I didn't buy it.
I think that's a fair reason not to buy it then.
Yeah, I had plenty of friends who enjoyed it, but as far as I know, it didn't exactly do gangbusters. But it was incredibly well received. It had a very great critical reception. The reviews were fantastic, and as far as I was able to get in the demo, the combat was fairly unique for its time period. So I can.
It's depressing.
I can definitely see THQ potentially trying to resurrect it, because a lot of the work's already been done. And there's been enough time for people to start to miss it and be nostalgic about the good aspects while not raging on the terrible ones and the sour taste that all of the happenings with 38 left in people's mouths.
What else did 38 Studios do?
That was it.
Yikes.
They made Kingdoms of
EA
Amalur.
was backing them.
They made Kingdoms of Amalur. They started working on an MMO that was essentially Kingdoms of Amalur Online, that was codenamed Project Copernicus, and they never finished it.
I remember that.
They filed bankruptcy too soon to get anything else out.
Oh yeah, if you go to their wiki, it has all that stuff underneath their bankruptcy.
Yeah, I was just looking at the exact same thing. Yep.
Yikes.
Whew. So, thoughts? Do you think we'll see a sequel to Kingdoms of Amalur, or do you think we'll see the MMO, or do you think they'll just hold on to it for other purposes?
I would be very happy to see a sequel. I think an MMO would be a risky situation. Not like we haven't just talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
we sure did.
I can see them farming profits just from the back sales of having Amalur around again and someone having a claim to it now. They'll probably end up sounding out whether or not a sequel is reasonable based on that.
Yeah, it's good material to base a game from.
Oh yeah, it's the writing. I mean,
they put a lot of work into the writing and the lore and the system, and it was a very fully realized game.
It's like getting the lady who wrote Harry Potter to write for a game. I forget what's her name.
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, her. It's like getting her to write for a game, and then the game going.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a whole nother thought.
Well, the Harry Potter mobile game is facing some issues that you see come
There's a
up with
mobile game?
microtransactions. Yup.
Oh, you mean
It's-
The circle. The circle.
wait.
We've just
Do you
come-
mean the child killing simulator? That one?
Child
essentially,
killing? I'm in. What?
The Harry
I'm sorry, what?
the Harry Potter mobile game has run into some controversies that is essentially people mashing their faces into time gating and microtransactions.
Yeah.
Isn't that every single mobile game though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why mobile, like, no one's ever gonna take mobile gaming seriously until they clean up the marketplace. It's garbage.
You won't with the
Yeah,
marketing schemes and
I blame Apple.
go ahead,
I'll
Dizza.
pay $15 for a game that doesn't have gates.
Right. I think that's the thing. I think that the fact that there's like consulting companies that actually work to maximize profits based on time gating and microtransactions and targeted advertisement and adjusting price. Like, I could go into so much more. Jim Sterling's already covered it all, so I mean, I would tell you just to check out his stuff regarding that. But yeah, it's mobile gaming right now is kind of a mess.
It's always been. I don't know any mobile game that I would actually pay money for.
Part of the controversy behind the Harry Potter mobile game is that it has the story that you progress through and you have your little branching options, etc. But there is actually a point in the story where, like, a character who is a kid is getting strangled, and the point where you have to, make the decisions to be able to push it forward and be able to get the character out of the situation. What happens when you suddenly smack into yet another time gate? So you started seeing titles of articles coming out like Harry Potter Hogwarts Mystery forces you to pay or wait to save a kid from being strangled. That was actually
very well thought out.
That was the title for an article from Eurogamer.
Yeah. Another gaming podcast actually called it the child killing simulator.
I love it.
So yeah.
Do you guys God, I can't remember. This happened like a couple of months ago, but there was a game very much like it's a story-based game where you can control, I think you can control time. It's not the one that you're thinking of. What is it? Strange something. Life is Strange. It's not Life is Strange, but like there was controversy over it because there was like a point in the game where there was like a really messed up scene where like the dad is beating the daughter or something like that, and you can choose what to do or something like that, and people lost their shit because it was like in the trailer of the game. And it's like, do you not realize that video games can actually cover dark topics?
Yeah.
I mean, we have people killing all the time, but this topic, no, it's taboo. But you can see the inside of somebody's brain, but
Yeah. I don't know if it was in the trailer. I know that happened in that actually happened in Detroit also, where you're
really was it Detroit? It might have been Detroit. I don't remember the game.
Yeah, I don't know if it was in the trailer or not, but there's a scene where the dad is about to abuse a daughter, and the android gets in between, like the android that's in that house, like got between the dad and the daughter, and rescued her, ran out the house with her, or at least that was an option you could do. I don't know about the other options.
Right. And there was like a huge controversy over that because people were like, "What? You're just promoting child abuse," and it was like, no, you are just taking it out of context. There's actually more to this situation than what you're seeing, and you're taking it out of context and you're making it worse. Then that's something that I don't understand. Like, we have this like this culture of like outrage and stuff, but it's like, know, if you're only helping when you call attention to something, you're only helping that thing.
The thing that I don't get about that is like, is the same person here going to say a child called It is a support of abuse? No, it's not. It's an illustration, and it's an illustration of something awful that happened. Spoilers.
Well, you don't have a choice in that.
Oh yeah, and choices have consequences.
Sure.
And as long as that illustrates well, where it's not like, oh hey, you did this, and life is more wonderful because somebody or something like that. Like the message comes across effectively.
I had a thought and I completely lost it, but it was on that same line, so you know. All right. Well, did we have anything else we wanted to touch on in this way, or?
But an MMO for Kingdoms of Amalur would be good too.
Full circle, guys. Full circle. That's how that works.
We need loot boxes.
Oh no.
I mean,
no
we
more
don't need loot boxes.
Yeah, exactly. That's the better answer.
Loot boxes with a limit. I think that's the ideal.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good compromise.
All right. Well, shall we start wrapping this up then?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, so this is the point where we sell out a little bit. We talk about what we got coming up on our channels, of what we're working on, where you can find us, and all that stuff. We'll start with our two-time returning host, Theoracraft. What are you working on? Where can we find you, etc., 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 etc.?
I'm not working on too much right now. I am planning to do some evaluations of things with the Unabridged Gamer coming up. But otherwise, I'm on hand for the Newbcast to grab whenever they need a little hand. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter. I am at Theoracraft, and you'll usually end up finding me in Miss Michelle Jean's channel on Twitch, due to being a more or less dedicated mod.
Which is fair. Yeah, and again, I thank you for Theoracraft for being able to jump in and filling in as our fourth guest host and such. Dizzahgee, what you got coming up?
Now that I am alive mostly well and have spent time with family, I can do things, which is great.
Yay, things.
So
Yes.
you'll see regular streaming come back on Tuesday. We've got a lot of Persona going on. I suddenly have a strange urge to play Kingdoms of Amalur, but unfortunately would need different hardware for that, so that's going to take some time. But the good news is there's plenty of Persona to go around, so we'll go enjoy that for a while. Sundays have officially become Dead Cell Sundays because it's just such an amazing game, and I never want to play something different other than that. I mean, it's a little off of the beaten path for me. I'm normally playing RPGs and having a blast with it. That's what I do during the week. You can definitely check me out on Twitch at Dizzahgee. You probably see me in the chat a couple of times.
Face.
And Twitter as well. Sorry?
It's below your face.
It is below my face. That's so convenient. It's almost like this interface was designed so that you could know us and know what's going on. That's cool.
Yeah.
But yes, everything, Twitter, Twitch, I don't know, like my Blizzard account, there's a number after it, but it's Dizzahgee.
It's almost like I designed this template in this layover after another podcast that did a great job of making sure people knew where to find the hosts on the show. It's almost like I did that.
Maybe.
It could.
He just smiles and goes with it. He's like, yeah, sure, that's exactly what happened.
But different enough to avoid copyright.
Yeah. I was about to make a plagiarism joke in there too. I was about to make a plagiarism
legally distinct from.
Oh dear. Hippo, what do you've got coming up?
We got more of The Sims 4, Bob Ross murdering people, vampire Bob Ross, might I add. We have more 2 Point Hospital. I don't know if we're gonna do another indie game this week. We'll see. And then on Fridays, guys, on my channel, things get weird. And by weird, I mean usually sexually. Anyway, we do lots of giveaways and stuff. I love Diz's face, by the way. So we do lots of giveaways and stuff. I just created this new channel in the Discord where you can, select a game. If you win a giveaway, like one of our giveaways on Fridays, you can select one of 74 current games on there, and a majority of them are not just like throwaway games. We're talking like Metal Gear Solid and all that stuff. So like we have 3 different Metal Gear Solids, and yeah. So if you want to play really cheap indie games and be really weird and possibly lewd, Friday's the day for you. But during the week, it's just a lot of life simulation and management games, like 2 Point Hospital. It's a life simulation game where you simulate life and death.
Nice.
There's a lot of death in my channel, I've noticed. Anyway, what about you, Michelle? What about you?
Well, on Tuesdays, of course, we've got Guild Wars Tuesdays, where I am joined by you, in fact, Hippo. We do world bosses and sometimes fractals. When we do open world bosses, we tend to show people what not to do, usually. But usually it's a lot of fun. People join in. We usually get members of the audience or that are hanging out in chat. They'll come and watch too and play along with us. So it's pretty open in that regard. We get a squad going if we get enough people, and we go kill bosses and such. On Wednesdays is usually variety. I'll do either more Guild Wars. I've done City Skylines. I've done all sorts of different things. I kind of want to do What the Box again. That was fun.
Oh my god, we need to do What the Box.
Yeah.
It's a $5 game on Steam, you guys. What the Box is like prop hunt with a gun and a box knife.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It's so much fun.
Yeah. So that may be another one. Or who knows what else. It's kind of I throw a dart at the screen and see what comes up. It's kind of what happens sometimes.
Monster Hunter?
Yeah.
Are you going to stream Monster Hunter?
If I can get people to play along with me, yeah.
I will be there if I'm not streaming.
Okay. Dizza appears to have an interest in this too.
There is much interest.
We'll have to work something out then. And there's some other stuff I would love to work out with these guys. So yeah, that's what's coming up on this channel. And then of course in 2 weeks we'll be back with the Newbcast Podcast. We'll have the Unabridged Gamer rotating in as our rotating pillar. And we have an idea who the host will be, our guest host, but we have to work out the final confirmation. So once we have it for sure, which will be later this week, the Newbcast Twitter account will tweet out about it. So yeah, that's everything for Theoracraft, Dizzahgee, and for Hipponanymous. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Miss Michelle Jean. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye. Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you, Dizza.
Always with the good ideas.